Hello and welcome to another week of going through the counterculture book. So this is the 9th chapter in the book, but though the third one that we are recording. So if you're looking at the playlist later and wondering why on earth this says like, oh, why was this one like done a week ago and this one was done like 5 weeks ago? Because don't worry about it. So
don't ask questions.
But this week we are covering another chapter of David Platt's counterculture book, looking at Unprecedented Crisis, the Gospel and Refugees is the title of this chapter. So, yeah. Do you have any thoughts as you were reading through this chapter, Katie? About just like what was your impressions? Yeah. Oh yeah.
I cried. That's what happened. I'm not even kidding. Oh, I started reading it at work because my brain was like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to do this thing tonight, and I haven't read the chapter. So I'm sitting in the break room reading the intro to this chapter at work, crying. I'm like, I hate this. I hate this so much.
Gosh,
my coworker's gonna be like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah. Yeah, I will say David Platt in this chapter really comes at things from like an emotional standpoint. There are some scriptures that he uses to back things up, but though I feel like this chapter is very emotion heavy. So we will absolutely mention all the stuff that Platt mentions. But though I don't want us to get carried away with the emotions. I do want us to at the end of the day, like, you know, what does the Bible say? How should we apply this? That kind of stuff.
Well, technically, the Bible doesn't say much about refugees. It talks about your neighbor. And then the question becomes, who's your neighbor?
Well, it does actually, because you have the sojourners, which there's a lot of passages that talk about the orphan, the widow, and the sojourner in the same passage. Yep. So,
but when you look at the sojourner in the context of the Bible historically, it's probably not somebody going from like Saudi Arabia, an example, all the way to Europe.
Yes, that is true. And
I feel like as the world's expanded, things have been added to it, rightfully so, in my opinion, in the sense of like, who's a sojourner, who is your neighbor, who is the refugee, like, who's the immigrant, who's a foreigner, all of that good stuff.
Yeah. So just to give an overview of this chapter, Platt actually does not come up with a He doesn't give any specific platitudes towards one political camp or the other, but rather his main message in this chapter is just how can we leverage this opportunity for the gospel, really.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so that brings us into the emotional journey of Samir. Oh boy, I was
not ready.
Yeah, he starts off the chapter by saying, "Imagine this 8-year-old boy. His name's Samir, and there's this. He has 2 sisters, and a mom and a dad. Was there also a?" No, it was just them. I thought
there was a grandma.
Okay, there was a grandma. Okay, that's right. Okay, I thought so.
Yeah, you're right.
And at the time, they were situated right in a big conflict between 2 Syrian armies and the Russian army. So this was during a big war in Syria. And so at the time, basically, Samir's father had to make a hard decision here and be like, if we stay here, our odds of dying are so high. just simply because of like just all of the missiles and gunshots and stuff that they would hear on a daily basis was like got to them to where it's like we need to get out. We need to get out. So that's what they did. They thought it through and was like, where on earth would we go? And they had heard other people saying that like there's a lot of people that were going to Turkey and then getting across the sea to Europe, and to get over to Greece. And if they can get to Greece, then they would be free. So that is what they started to do. They went on this whole emotional journey there, where they packed up everything they know, and along the way they got exploited in so many ways because so many people tried to take advantage of the situation and what little money that they had. Like there was one like taxi driver that like, you know, he paid them in advance, and the taxi driver said that's like, oh yeah, I'll get you all the way to the border, and the taxi driver like literally like stops at one point and is like, this is as far as I take you unless you pay me more. Like
20 minutes in, and the driver's like, you either pay me more or get out.
Yeah. And as they are like crossing over the ocean as well, they were promised a much more like robust boat, but they got a rubber dinghy instead.
Yeah, a rubber dinghy that was meant to hold 30 people that they shoved 60 not immigrants, refugees into.
Yeah. And oh gosh, let me see if I can find it. They were like waiting in this refugee camp in Turkey for days on days until they could finally go, and they got this rubber dinghy.
I think it was a couple weeks, right?
Yeah. And so they finally get on, and then because of how many people they've shoved onto this little boat, it started to sink. And so people started to throw away some of their valuables, but it didn't help enough. Something more needed to be lost. It was definitely the weight that needed to be fixed. And so then Samir's dad stood up, looked into his son's eyes, across at his wife, and said, I want you and everyone else on this boat to live. I'll do my best to meet you on the shore. And without further hesitation, with only his very shoddy little life vest that does nothing to actually help you float.
Yeah, they said that in the beginning, that it was more of a safety hazard with how it was constructed than it was helpful.
Yeah. He jumped in without any further hesitation, and just like that, it was at night as well, I believe. And so like, the moment that he jumped off the boat, he was just gone. They had no idea if he was alive or not. Nothing. Yeah. And so they made it in. And as many of the people on the boat were like celebrating that they were in Europe, Samir's family was looking, tears down their face, back at the ocean, wondering if he was going to make it ashore.
Yeah.
But though, thankfully, the Greek Coast Guard was able to rescue him. So, yeah, you guys see why I cried? Yeah. So the Greek Coast Guard comes in and rescues him. So thankfully, yes, yeah, he was alive.
The sigh that left my body when I read that, crying. I'm like, oh, thank
God. So yeah, they and then after that was when they got scammed by the taxi driver and made their way there. So all of these, so this is one of many stories out there. They lost hope, because once they got through Greece, they got stopped at one point and put into a like tight refugee camp within Greece, told that they could not move on. They wanted to go to Germany, but they would not be allowed to do so. In fact, there was plans to perhaps even bring them back to Turkey. And at this point, they were completely flat broke.
Yeah.
Turkey would definitely be better than Syria, but they have no plans on what to do there. So, and it's still pretty close to the conflict as well. So I don't know how exactly safe they would feel, but so this here is so the scope of that refugee crisis at the time of writing. When was this written?
Ooh.
Let me see here. Info. That is just the ISBN number. That is not helpful information. Now let me look in the copyright.
That's where I was trying to get to. It's so tiny.
Okay, so wait, the oh no, hold on. That's the copyright for the ESV. Where's the copyright for this whole book? What the heck? Whenever this, because this is the
2017.
2017. Thank you. Yeah. So at the time of writing in 2017, the refugee crisis there encompassed more than 60 million people, and I think this is timely to be talking about this, having that now that a war is starting up in Iran as well. The same crisis is probably going to happen there. There's going to be many people fleeing Iran. I mean, I heard actually there's an Iranian sports team. I forget what sport that was like playing soccer. Yeah, that were playing over in Australia, and they refused to sing their national anthem because they were sick of Iran, and so so Australia offered them asylum and things like that. So
with a female soccer team.
Yeah. So the world. So there's already stuff moving there for people being displaced and things like that. So this crisis is real, and it's very easy for us over here in the States to just like not realize how impactful this is to people's actual lives, just war in general, and then how to stay alive when the country you are in is currently being sieged. So,
yeah, think about it. There's so much war going on in the Middle East with Iran and Israel, and you still got the Ukrainian conflict with Russia going on, and it's like, whereas like the states are huge, right? Like it takes like 3 days to travel out of Texas, depending on where you're coming from. Like over there, countries are significantly smaller, and so like, I can't even imagine what that would be like.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, just imagine like if, being in Ohio, if there was a war happening in Indiana, like that is, even that is like a scary thought right there.
Yeah.
But yeah. Or for those in Indiana in the chat, imagine the reverse there. But because I realized there's some Indiana people in the chat, and I was like, oh wait. But yes. So Platt says here, so we're in the section Millions of Samirs, that his aim in this chapter is not to propose a particular political position for his country, but instead to help us see as the church the way that so many of us think and talk about refugees today often springs from a foundation of fear and not faith, right? So.
I mean, it also springs from Western ideology, like out of sight, out of mind. Like,
I don't know if that's
not my
Western
problem
per se. I think that's more so just American, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but a lot of people refer to the America as the West.
Well, yeah,
America
yeah.
and Europe.
So the Western culture includes Europe as well. So. But yeah. And Europe is very globalized, but the
Yeah, it is.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, and there's a whole thing, a whole debatable thing about globalization versus, I guess it's the opposite would be like patriotism of sort of like isolationism. I don't know, like self-sustaining essentially, and like being cut off, the like anti-globalism. I'm not sure what the okay, hold on, what is the opposite of globalization? Nationalism. There we go, nationalism.
Yeah, well, we got plenty of that here.
Yeah, for sure. And frankly, like, even in a globalized world, I forgot I had a bingo thing for Googling something. Oh, there we go. Yeah, for those here live watching on Twitch, you guys can play bingo in the in the panels. Yeah, so there is a degree where even globalized nations do need to be competitive with one another.
Yeah.
So it makes sense for us to want to up our own industry and be more self-independent and things like that in order to be therefore more competitive internationally. So it works both ways. But that aside, I don't know. I don't know if it's all completely fear, because there is a degree to where like certain ideologies don't match. Right?
Yeah.
You were saying earlier about like how even with the like the like sojourners that were amongst those in like Israel, at least were like from adjacent cultures, right?
Yeah, like technically, although Jesus was he sought asylum in Egypt when he was a child, like an infant, where his family went to Egypt. I don't know if they would have considered him necessarily like a foreigner like we do today, because it was technically a neighboring place. Like, I asked Flat Cap about it because I was curious. He was like, it would have been more along the lines of like if I moved from where I am to a different state versus like how we think about foreigners and immigration today.
Gotcha. Yeah. So that's yeah, and so because when we think, so technically Platt's chapter on or little section on immigration, he stuck that into his chapter on ethnicity, because he wrote this chapter that we're reading today on refugees came later. This is the revised version that this chapter appears in. But even during that chapter, Platt did say that, like, well, so whether they are a refugee or whether they're an immigrant, all of them should be viewed as made in the image of God, right? They should all, and therefore, like, we should be treating them well, right? Yeah. And so the I guess we'll kind of cover a little bit of that real quickly, because I feel like that's probably one of the more hot button issues. Is like, we shouldn't take any refugees because, like, well, they're scared of the and there are some near dwellers that dwell amongst them and use that as a route to sneak in and be able to so
I think when it gets into like, because I like when people talk about like immigration and the Bible and America, they're like, well, blah blah, and I'm like, okay, no, there are outlines, especially if you read the Old Testament, to how to treat the foreigner who dwells among you, and they still have to follow your laws. And I'm like, being a refugee and a foreigner does not negate knowing the laws. However, laws have to be taught. If I move to another country, especially like, imagine being a refugee trying to flee for your life. You're not going to have time to Google all the laws to the country you're fleeing to. That's unrealistic. So I
Yeah.
think there's definitely a level of like, hey guys, have some compassion, like partner with them to, especially like, because like if someone came to the States per se, to, like say someone who was a refugee came here, different states have different laws, and then you have the federal laws. So it's just like help them learn, because they're not gonna know if no one teaches them. Like that's not realistic.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, and that's why citizenship classes exist, and I think that's the way you want to go. Yeah. If you're going to want to be a part of a country, you should be willing to adapt to that country's culture.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because here's the thing: if say someone were to be, migrating out of either Syria or Iran or whatever it may be, it would be a lot more wise to go to another country that has the same ideologies as you. Mm-hmm. In fact, those that are allied are more likely to take you in. Mm-hmm. And so it just makes more sense that way. So to see all sorts of like, because Muslims are more of a like, if you like, well, Middle Eastern culture is more so a like Eastern culture overall. But though like those ideologies clash quite a bit. So, which is not to say that you can't have like Muslims co-dwell in general. No, that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is if someone is going to come into your country, their goal should not be to like, take over and like, it should not be to like try to like, put their culture in place of another, right? They should be willing to adapt to the place that they're going. If they don't want to live in the type of country that they're going to, then why are they going to that country in the first place, right?
Right. A perfect example is I read a book. Oh man, I wish I could remember what book it was, where she talked about immigration, like in the early days of America, and how a bunch of Germans ended up in Minnesota. Because this was talking about like, because there's a lot of like Middle Eastern and Muslims who have moved to Minnesota. So she was comparing and contrasting what happened then to what's happening now. And she's like, back then, she's like, there was some influence that the Germans had where like more people were learning the German language. It became elective in school, but they assimilated where they also learned like the American culture. So there was like a co-balance of like, hey, we're here because we want to be here and we love this country. And there was just like this natural like, hey, like there's more people. So there was like more German food and some like German culture that influenced. And so like that's kind of natural because America is like this huge great melting pot, right, of different cultures. And I'm like, that's what it should be, of like, hey, come to the, like, if you want to come here, like learn our ways, learn our customs, but also share your customs with us, but don't try to like take over like our laws and like how we do certain things, because then it won't be America anymore.
Yeah. I saw a headline on the Twitter earlier that some European country, I can't remember which, banned the wearing of burqas, which
I saw that.
Which is the for those who don't know, the full body, like you are like completely in black and the only thing you can see is their eyes. That's it. Now that they have the right to do that because they want to protect their culture and things like that, and plus also like they're not banning hijabs or certain other garbs. It's just burqas that they are banning there, right? Hijab is the one that's kind of just like a wrap where they're just trying to hide their hair.
Yeah, I mean it like oh, my model froze. Other like, nuns cover their hair depending on what kind of I think it might depend on like what branch of like, because I know that I've learned that there are different like sects to being a nun. Mm-hmm. And so, like, some nuns cover their hair, some don't. In that same way, like, hijab is just covering your hair. Like, there are other religious groups that cover their hair. Like, like Orthodox Jews cover their hair, which is mildly confusing, by the way, because some just wear wigs that are made of human hair. And it's when I learned that, I'm like, then what's the point of covering your hair? Whatever. I'm not gonna think about it.
Wait, yeah, because if it's to like not put up a stumbling block or like be
well, it's because your hair is the crown on your head, and only those closest to you are supposed to see it.
Hell.
So they'll cover their hair, but they'll wear a wig made of real hair, so you can't tell it's a wig. And I'm just like, Nani?
Yeah. Yo, the pro welcome in.
Sorry, it feels like cheating.
Yes. It 100% does. Yes, indeed. But yeah. And but no, yeah, like so that being said, if someone were to like value that, they really want to like wear burqas and stuff, well, they have the right to they have the right to do that back in like some cultures that share that same ideology about because like, you know, the it is an ideology thing because like you know, in those European countries, they value that kind of being able to, like, you know, being able, well, having a personal identity of sorts, right? And so to like close yourself off to where like you can't even like know who you're talking to until you actually talk to them, that just goes against their culture's ideology. So that's why. Yeah. Alrighty. All right, that was a fun little tangent. Let's so, well, there's not too much else to speak on this like overall this is a shorter chapter because the story the story at the beginning takes up most of it.
I was like, wow, I was reading it expecting more. Like, I had a notebook ready to take notes, and I was like, this was short.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll be going down many rabbit holes. And of course, if chat has questions, feel free to ask away. So I guess now we move into the section titled Sovereignty over Suffering, right? How are we to think about this refugee crisis in light of the gospel? Unless you had anything else you wanted to note on the previous section before we move on.
Nope.
All right, cool. We have to start with the sovereignty of God. God is sovereign over all of nature, right? From the wind blowing, the light of the sun. That all happens at his command. And God is also sovereign over all nations, right? The Bible says that God charts the course of the countries, holds the rulers of the earth in the palm of his hand, right? And also the Bible says that all authority is it stems from him as well, right? So there is no sovereignty outside of the sovereign, essentially. And this is good news for us. I would need that as Platt says here. You know, the leaders of North Korea, the U.S., Russia, Iran, any of them, God rules over all over them first and foremost, right? Anything else you wanted to add to any of that?
No, I don't think so anyways.
Fair. Yeah. And his sovereignty also extends over even suffering in the world as well, right? So, and he spends multiple paragraphs on this, and we actually talked about this during our Concise Theology series on Satan, the devil, and the world. I believe was the title of that one. And angels. That's what it was. It was Satan, the devil, and angels. where God, it basically the devil is God's devil, is the way one writer puts it. I forget who, but Satan has to be allowed by God to afflict Job, for example.
I dislike when people use Job so much because he's like the one case where we actually see it. And I'm just like, not saying that we can't use it to learn, but like, because I love the book of Job. It's full of like so much information, but I'm like, you're taking like one case that we know and applying it to like this huge, large thing in life. And I'm like, I don't know, fam.
You know what? That is legitimately a fair point. And I respect the heck out of that.
It's like when I think of suffering in the Lord, I don't think God, like, not saying he's not sovereign. He's completely sovereign. I think he allows suffering. I don't think he wants all suffering to happen. However, like, because I was talking to my sister about this before stream. I'm like, I'm on the boat of like, he makes all things work for the good of those who love him, because that's scriptural. But I'm like, also that good could be death. Like, and that good could be suffering for the kingdom. And so, but I'm like, I don't think all people who suffer are suffering because like God wants them to. I think sometimes we put ourselves in situations where we suffer out of lack of obedience. Well, and he's sovereign over that. But I think that's a different than the Lord appointing, like in Job specifically, where the Lord's like, yeah, Satan, you can test Job. I think there's different kinds of sufferings that we can face. And I would have liked him to talk about that a little bit more. Because some, like, and he does touch on it, like when like the Israelites are like, in Jerusalem, exiled to Jerusalem, go back to Jerusalem. And that's the suffering of like, hey, your disobedience will cause you suffering because you're not being obedient unto me, the just God. And I told you, hey, like I warned you time and time again, if you lack obedience, there will be consequences. And so I think there's multiple forms of suffering in the world.
Yes.
And God's sovereign over it all. But my human brain has a hard time understanding that.
Over in 2 Corinthians 12, because it is more than just Job. It is more than just Job. So there is where Paul was given a thorn in the flesh, right? Therefore it was given to Paul writing here. To keep me from exalting myself, there was given me a thorn in the flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me, to keep me from exalting myself. Now, concerning this, he pleaded to the Lord 3 times that he may leave, and God said, "My grace is sufficient for you, for power is perfected in weakness." So even here, God chose very specifically not to take away that thorn. And I would go so far as to say that God was the one that gave the thorn of sorts.
But he gave it for a very specific purpose, so that Paul couldn't exalt himself.
Yes, and that is the point. Anytime that suffering comes across us, there is a purpose and a good that will come of it. So, because we know that all things work together for the good of those who fear the Lord. Yeah. Also another little thing about Job. Another fun little fact about Job while we're here. So when it describes, also Levin, welcome in. When it describes Satan during that, and when God asked asked Satan, what have you been up to? It uses this very like predatory language of him roaming about the earth,
like a lion.
Exactly, as a lion looking for prey. Right? And then in response to that, have you considered my servant Job? So this was very much God directing the devil to all this. And then also Job says that the Lord gives and takes away. Not that the Lord gives and the devil takes away, right? So.
Yeah, I will say I have had people misuse that verse, the Lord gives and takes away, and I'm like,
sure.
But that's not related to this.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things of like, when we're talking about suffering and we're talking about the sovereignty of the Lord, there's sometimes like it's hard for like even me like to completely understand it. So like in people's trying to understand it, they will use what they know how they know it. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Probably not, but English is hard.
Oh boy, yes. One of these days, God's going to say, "Have you considered my servant?" Sorry.
What I do love about this, though, is if you look at Job, it does show, because people are like, so often people will say, "Well, Satan's attacking you," Lucifer, Satan himself is attacking you. And I'm like, Satan's not omnipresent. He can't be everywhere at once like Jesus can. Like that's not how he works. He's a singular being. And so when I listen to people be like, Satan's sure attacking me today, I'm like, maybe, but it could be one of his underlings, or it could be the Lord testing you. Have you asked him about it? So I love like in this moment where, because like even in Paul it said a messenger, it didn't say Satan himself was attacking Paul. Here it just specifically says Satan himself was given permission to attack Job. And so often I feel like, at least in my Christian experience, people are like, man, Satan sure is up to shenanigans today. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's not Satan up to shenanigans, but okay.
Yeah, I like the verse that 11 here is sharing here. So Proverbs 16:4, which is hiding behind some of my stuff there, but it says the Lord has made everything for his purpose, even the wicked for the day of trouble. And I apparently need to rearrange my sources to have that not be hiding behind the text. Whoopsies.
Right, 11. Satan was only permitted to do specific things to Job as well. He wasn't allowed to I don't think he was allowed to kill Job. I think that was one of the stipulations. He's like, you can't kill my servant.
Yeah. But though this verse here works out everything to its proper end, even the wicked for the day of disaster. So God does not bring the wicked to good as the wicked's ultimate end, because God is just. So yeah. So that's another part of God's sovereignty that we need to keep in mind. Not only does he work things together for do we receive good, but though also he does bring about peril for the wicked.
Yeah, I feel like Proverbs is a good book to teach on that. Not just in 16, but it's ripe with literature about the wise and the folly, and how the fool will ultimately meet his demise.
Yes, indeed. Yes. So, now, Platt does go on to say that we need to remember that amid suffering this world, we would be leaving the Bible behind if we concluded that God is not ultimately in control. Moreover, it would not bring us much comfort practically for us to consider Satan in control instead of God.
Wait, say that again? I'm sorry.
It wouldn't be very comforting to think that Satan would be in control instead of God.
Oh yeah, no, there'd be no hope. He's just he temporarily believes he has control, but he really doesn't.
Yeah. Dale the Dane, welcome in. Good to have you here. Yeah. But yes. So all of that to say that yeah, like we said, the devil is God's devil at the end of the day. God is in control and Satan is controlled. So with that, and then he also very much dodges the debate about God's sovereignty versus man's free will. And we're gonna also dodge that debate here too, because
Yeah, please. I'm like, that'll give me a headache.
we already have a video on that over on the VOD's channel in our Concise Theology series.
Go watch it, just not right now.
Yeah.
Finish this first.
But yes. So, doop-a-doop-doo. God is in control, Satan's subordinate. There we go. Okay. So he concludes this section by saying that when we see the migration of people in the world due to a multitude of different reasons, we can be confident it is all ultimately occurring under the sovereign governance of God, right?
I really like this. I also liked how, like, earlier in the chapter he referenced, like, Israel in and out of Egypt, Israel in and out of Jerusalem, like those specific events where the Lord was moving people. And like this will kind of tie into it, not because genocide, but because I was listening to the Bible today and it was talking about, I'm in Joshua, and it was talking about the wars and how, like, Joshua was told to kill all the people, but then it also simultaneously said, do not marry, like, the Canaanites and the, you know, all the other people in the land. And how, like, when the Lord moved the Israelites into these nations, how he wanted ultimate peace amongst the people. It wasn't just, I'm gonna wipe you all out and there's no hope of redemption. It was like, hey, you're to be set apart and make peace with them, but do not become like them. And in the same way, like we were kind of talking about earlier, I think when people move to one place or another, it's like, have peace with them. And like, if people are gonna be here and they don't necessarily want to, like, be part of our culture, oh, that's fine, but don't try to come here and make our, like, push your culture onto us, because I wouldn't do that if I came into your, I would try to assimilate or just mind my business and live peacefully amongst you doing my business.
Peace with the neighbors there, but though, like, God wanted utter destruction on the Canaanites because God was specifically judging the Canaanites, the child sacrificers, and this.
Look, I couldn't remember all the people in Joshua that, like, they were at war with. Okay, there's a lot. Well, there's a lot of war happening in Joshua, and the Canaanites are, like, just the ones I can remember. So I was using them as an example.
Yeah.
A poor one, albeit, but still an example.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there you go. Levin, thank you. You shall, Deuteronomy 23:7, you shall not abhor an Edomite, for he is your brother. Yes. Yeah, you shall not abhor an Egyptian because you were a sojourner in his land. Yeah, seriously, we should never look down on other countries. That's for sure. Just because we're American, therefore we can look down at those silly neighboring countries. No, absolutely not.
Sometimes I question other countries, but I also question my own sometimes.
Yes. Yes. Alrighty. So we now move into the section titled Unprecedented Opportunity, unless you had anything else you wanted to add to the other section.
No, I think that was it.
Yeah. Men, women, and children who have lived in countries where there has for decades and even centuries been no access to the gospel now have access because of the refugee crisis, right? The fact that they are coming into countries and spaces that have access to the gospel is not an accident. So this is where Platt starts to like argue that, like, hey, this is prime opportunity, especially if you are in one of those if you're in one of those countries that is receiving refugees, right?
Yeah.
Like, man, go out and talk to these people, because remember, they are made in the image of God, and they are just as worthy of hell as you, and just as worthy of the gospel as you.
And can you imagine how jarring it is to like? I mean, I've visited the Middle East, like, and I wasn't even a refugee, but it's definitely a culture shock, right? And so, like, granted, going to state sometimes is a culture shock because state to state is different. But can you imagine, like, being displaced from your home because of war, and you're in this whole new place, and no one will talk to you? Like, and no one wants to look at you because they feel like you're an inconvenience, or that, like, you have no right to be there, and you're just some, like, foreigner who's less than them. Like, how tragic is, like, that's what really got me when I got to thinking about this. Like, and even in the States, like, the way we treat people who move here from different countries sometimes, it's just like, oh, like, you're not one of us. We don't want you here. And I'm just like, should any of us really be here then? Yeah. Like, we're all kind of like, in some way, shape, or form, unless you're a native who, you know, was here during all of that. My family immigrated from, half of my family anyways, immigrated from Italy like 4 centuries ago, like four generations back. Yeah. Like, we're all somehow an immigrant in some way. Yes. In every country, because everyone keeps moving around. Yeah. And so, like...
Yeah. And that is a good. There needs to be a distinction between these 3 different groups, though. You have refugees, you have immigrants, and you have illegals, right? So those.
I hadn't even thought about the third one.
Yeah. I was
thinking about the first 2.
Exactly. Yeah. So you have the illegals do not count as simply refugees. If they are merely escaping poverty, that is way different. That is so different from trying to escape life and death in a war, like an actual battlefield. You do not count as a refugee in that case.
Yeah, no, I know there are refugees who are like here in the States who sought asylum, who were granted asylum, which is, I believe, a type of refugee, right? Unless I'm incorrect.
Yeah. That would be the act of taking in a refugee. Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, like, my line of thinking was correct there. But like, when I was like reading this story about like how like in the unprecedented opportunity where like he was like there and he talked, like he saw, and how like it completely changed him. I'm like, I didn't even realize there had been a refugee crisis back in 2017 until I read this book. Like, granted, I was like 2 years out of high school at that point, so maybe 3. So like, I wasn't really. My head was still in the clouds. I mean, it still kind of is, but it's one of those things where I'm just like, man, how often, and I don't think this is just an American problem. I think it's like, if you're not careful, it can be an anywhere problem if you're living comfortably and you're not afflicted by war and you don't see the crises of the world. And I mean, also, like, there's an oversaturation of news, right? So it's like, how do you like filter through what's really happening? But I'm like, it's one of those things where I'm just like, man, like, how often do I miss something that's on the Lord's heart because I'm so busy with my own thing, or I'm just not paying attention to like what he wants me to do or what's going on in the world. It's so easy to overlook something like this because you're just simply not, looking. And so you're missing your neighbor, you're missing the refugee, you're missing someone who God loves. And I'm not saying it's an everyone problem, because everyone's called to different things, right? But like, say like the Lord wanted you to do something and you missed it because one thing or another. Like you just weren't attuned, I guess.
Yes. Now, I will say that like, so Dill in here saying that like refugee status or not, you should be treating people rightly. And so yes, all 3 of these groups count as sojourners, right? People that have left their country, that are in a state that is not their own. And and so we should always be treating them with like, because they're all made in the image of God. So so the way we treat them ought to be humanely. However, that does not mean that we get to, because there was a actual process that even Israel had. If you wanted to become a part of the nation, you couldn't just simply show up. You had to go through, you had to get not castrated. What is it? Circumcised. Jeez, imagine you had to go get castrated. Gee whiz. No, be circumcised and then put yourself under the law, right? Like, there's a and so therefore, immigration should have a process as well.
Right, like, so, like, in Israel, if you didn't want to, like, assimilate into, like, the Israeli culture, you always remained far off. You couldn't participate in the festivals, you couldn't, like, be in the outer courts as a Gentile. There were certain things, like, you weren't allowed to do as a foreigner in the land who didn't want to be, like, assimilated into the culture. And so, yeah.
Yes. Also, Jeremiah, welcome in. Good to see you in here. And Dill, they're saying that's like, treat like, we legal distinctions are valid, and the way that we treat people ought to always be the same, and I would agree to that.
Yeah, here's what I'll say. As somebody who's like has had friends show me videos specifically of like what's going on in Minnesota and even other states with the illegal immigration, I would not say humans are being treated humanely.
Yeah.
And that's concerning to me as a human who lives here. Like, is it a problem? Yes. Do we need to solve the problem? Yes.
Yeah.
Is tossing, like, ripping someone out of their car and throwing them on the ground humane? No, I wouldn't say so in the violent manners I've seen. And so, yeah.
Yeah, that situation is so muddied as well by but because there's a lot of people living there that are legal that are trying to fight them back, and some of them running over cars. So it's escalated so horribly, and it's just compounded and snowballed and made all that worse.
Yeah, I've heard of, on the flip side, like, I've heard of people getting in law enforcement raids who are trying to stop sex trafficking because they're assuming they're going after illegal immigrants, and instead they're impending saving children and people who are stuck in these horrific conditions where they don't want to be because they were smuggled across the border. And they're like, or even just like a mix of like even people here in the States who have been trafficked. So they're like, I'm like, guys, like, you can't assume every strike or every law enforcement officer is going after people who shouldn't be, like, who aren't here legally. It's not that they shouldn't be here, they didn't follow the proper channels to get here, right? And so there's this boiling and this tension of like conflict on both sides, and I'm just like, oh Lord Jesus, have mercy on us all.
Yeah. Jeremiah, I don't think that Dild is saying what you're thinking Dild is saying, because I think we're all on the same page here, that people okay, there we go
Yeah.
Alrighty. I think we're all on the same page that those that want to live in this country ought to. So the solution is not to just simply let them stay, right? The solution is to deport them, but it should be done humanely.
Right. So, like, I listened to this story recently about a guy who was brought here as a child. So he's here illegally. He's married now and has kids, and he's been in communication with, his representative who is overseeing his case, and the representative back in Mexico who's overseeing his case from that side. And one of the things that if you're brought here as a child that you have to do is you have to go back to your country, which one is kind of hard, especially if you were brought here as a child. This is your country. You don't know your home origin country. You were too little. And so, but he's just like, I will be going back after my wife gives birth to our fourth child. And we get her through like postpartum and stuff. I've been in communication, so people know where I'm at. They know what's going on. They know why I haven't gone. He's like, and once I'm back there, it could take 6 months to a year for me to get legal re-entry into this country. But he's like, I'm going to do it because it's the right thing to do. But he's like, my family is first. So he's like, I have to make sure they're set up to succeed while I'm away correcting something that happened to me when I was a kid.
Yeah. And
so like there are cool stories like that.
Yeah, and I can respect the heck out of that. Yeah. Seriously. So the problem is not is on the parents that originally brought that child into the States illegally. That is correct.
And now the child is suffering because of what the parents did.
Exactly. Yep. And we need to sympathize as well because many of those families, like those parents at the time, thought that was the best thing for their kid. Ultimately, that proved wrong, but they were just doing what parents do, trying to make the right decision for their kids.
Yeah.
But yeah. The parents think that they're giving a child. Yes. Oh, yeah. Zara's saying the same thing. Hey, same thought. There we go.
Yeah.
And Levin's saying
their intentions are good, but misplaced good intentions are still misplaced.
Yes, of course. Plus, also, like, you're not exactly helping the situation back at home by leaving it, right?
No.
Yeah.
You're not. Yeah.
Yeah, because your decisions don't just impact you and your family, but also those around you, right? So you're abandoning your neighbors, essentially.
Yeah. Oh, I never thought about it that way. Dang. That kind of hits different when you think about it. A fact of like, me just leaving isn't just impacting like me, myself, and I, or me, myself, and my family. It's affecting those around me too.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Oh yeah, the people immigrating are the most capable ones. Exactly. And so, were they to stay, they would even though they would still be in poverty. They would still help stimulate the economy. It would basically be a long-term investment, essentially, right?
Yeah.
Alrighty. So, I think that rabbit hole has come to a nice conclusion. I think we have.
I agree.
Yeah. So, coming back to the unprecedented opportunity section here in chapter 9. This is on page 231. Instead, many of us need to step out and consider giving our time and gospel to these unique opportunities that we have, right? So, and this ends up being one of the main things that he drives for throughout this is, he does say that a lot of these people are like, are like whole nations apart from us, like whole oceans apart from us. It's not a situation that is per se near. So it's not something that all of us can directly do, but that might be a calling for some people reading this book or even listening to this to go out and serve overseas and things like this, because there's a lot of need out there for that. The unique opportunities. This is about refugees. So that's where we're originally talking about, is refugees over in Europe. and being able to spread the gospel to them, those fleeing wars, and the and you know, because like in the countries they're coming from, they would never be able to hear the gospel otherwise.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, coming into the selfless love section here, this is where he starts to get very practical with that. Oh yeah, and this is where he mentions that most refugees live far away from the most readers of this book. But we can start by praying for them.
Yeah, I really liked how like after the selfless love, he's like practical steps. I'm like, oh, this is actually really nice because like some people are like, what can I do? And then like he answers the question. I'm like, here's what you can do.
Yeah. Exactly. There you go. Perfect. So yeah, and we can pray confidence that we know that the God who reigns sovereignly over all people has ordained prayer as a means in which we can participate with this sovereign God in the accomplishment of his sovereign purposes.
I feel like prayer can either be one of those things that like people, I don't think you can ever overvalue prayer because it's so powerful, but I feel like prayer, sometimes people undervalue the significance of like going before the Lord and being like, hey, I'm petitioning for this, and like partnering or praying or interceding.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Dilden chats like getting citizenship for an Indian fiance. Let's go. That is so awesome. And I have a friend that is doing the same thing with a now wife getting citizenship. So
I have a friend who's doing the same thing too. He actually went to her country they were back and forth for a while because I find it interesting because I didn't know this, but like even if you marry someone, so say like I married someone from another country, getting them here isn't as easy as people make it out to be. Yeah. Because like when my friend and his now wife got married, they actually denied her entry into the country. They're like, no. They're like, we know you're married, but no. And so they had to like go through all the paperwork and all these legal processes all over again.
Huh.
Yeah.
That is wild. But yeah, there's something to be said about how that system could be improved, but though we are not politicians, we do not know the ins and outs of that, because boy howdy is that complicated, because you don't want to just let everyone in. So how do you vet people? It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
But anyways, so praying for them is one way that we can help. And so also in terms of opportunities, of course, there is physically going, or it could be like sending resources, right? There could be organizations that help refugees that could be donated to. I've not done research ahead of time to know any to recommend specifically, but they exist.
They do.
Yeah. Red Cross does a lot of stuff with refugees, I think. Do they?
That wouldn't surprise me, actually.
Yeah. It might. But yes, the so looking for ways to do that, and finally looking for opportunities to welcome them is another thing that Platt suggests. He says, as men and women and children from other countries come to our culture to take legal refuge, we should be welcoming them with open arms, right? And be able to share with them the greatest news in the world, which is that Christ came to die on their behalf, so that they can, be free of the of the shackles of not merely a human war, But though a war that was already won by Jesus on the cross, the war for their very souls.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Alrighty. I didn't know that Jeremiah's wife Rebecca was 7 generations of mostly India Presbyterian missionaries. Interesting.
Pretty cool.
Oh, let's go.
I think one of the things I think about when, which I hadn't thought about until this moment, ironically enough, is when I came back from the Middle East in 2017, roughly. One of the things we talked about is a lot of people who come here from the Middle East are never invited to an American's home, which is such a shocking culture shock to them, because in the Middle East, you're always having people over. Like, when I went over there, like, there was a woman who lived there who was already displaced, like, in a sense of, like, she was an outcast because she was Christian, but then she took in an orphan boy. And so, like, no one would go to her home. And so when we went over, she intentionally had us over to host us. And we had a translator because she didn't speak English. And we offered to help her and, like, you know, like, help, like, do things around the house. And she's like, no, you're my guest. Let me serve you. She's like, I'm just so happy to have people in my home again. And so when we came back and we started, like, learning that, like, people from the Middle East don't get invited to people's homes here for one reason or another, I'm just like, man, like, I haven't thought about this since, like, probably after I just came right back from the Middle East. And, like, how is that loving? Like, if you see someone, and then there was this time I thought it was so beautiful. We had this Muslim woman who would come in to our church because she was a PCA, so a personal care assistant, and she would often sit outside of service. So we had, like, chairs and, like, a little lounge, and, like, a little coffee bar and stuff, so people could, you know, like, if they had rowdy kids or whatever, they could go out there. But there was one time I came out, and I was a teenager when this happened, and some of the women from the church had, like, left service to go and intentionally talk to her while the pastor was teaching, not because they wanted to be disrespectful to the pastor, but because they wanted her to know she wasn't alone. And they wanted to hear her stories, and they weren't loud or disrespectful, and so, like, no one really would have noticed. And I'm like, that's the body of Christ, like, and, like, that's what, like, this is making me think of, like, how can, like, in our day-to-day, like, because we don't know if someone's a refugee or they're here legally, and we frankly don't know if someone's here illegally either. Like, you're not gonna know that by looking at them. Now, you can tell ethnically, like, that people are different, right? Like, you're gonna look at me and be like, she's the most basic of basic white girls carrying her vanilla latte that's iced with whipped cream, right? Like, but so, ethnically, you can tell people kind of apart, right? Or, like, you know, people from other countries know I'm an American by how I act. So there's different ways cultures act. But, like, how can, like, even I, after reading this, I'm like, how in my day-to-day life can I, like, just love people, like, even while I'm walking around work?
Yeah.
Because, like, I interact with so many different people in my job because I work retail. Like, how can I be compassionate and kind? And sometimes, guys, it's hard. Like, people come in. People come in with these really thick accents, and I have to really strain to understand them. But I always try to be patient. Sometimes I'm not. Like, I just kind of look at them and be like, can you, like, speak a little slower and a little more clearly so I can understand you? But there have been moments where, like, I take my time and I kind of stop everything that I'm doing and I just focus on the individual in front of me. I'm like, right now, this person, for whatever reason, whether they're asking for help or they just want to chit chat, because that happens to, like, is worthy of my attention. And so sometimes it's just slowing down in the hustle and bustle of life and, like, seeing who's in front of you and not just missing an opportunity and passing by.
I love that. Yeah. Because, like, I have so many Indian co-workers and even church members too.
Do they cook well?
Oh boy, do they? Yes. I need to but though like it's been so cool to see how just the like culture overlap there with because like um my Indian friends at church, they like eat at like 8 o'clock, for example, and so like like people like there's one time that like one of my elders is like, oh yeah, we'll come over and we'll come over at like 6 or something like that, and like they just like didn't eat and stuff like that. It's like, were they not going to wait, what? It was just so jarring to them. Yeah.
Like I can't have people over, like not because I don't love having people over, but my dinner is hecka early. Like I eat at like 2:30, between 2:30 and 3:30, because I'm up so early.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I say dinner, and then I always follow up by my time that I eat, because I need people to know that I eat dinner very early because of my job. They're like, Nani? Like, who eats that early? I'm like, well, when you're up at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
But yeah. So it's always funny when I go over to other people's houses and they're like, yeah, dinner will be at like 6:30, 7 o'clock. And I'm like, okay, so have a snack and eat a light dinner when I get over to your house.
Yep. Alrighty. But yeah,
that used to be my late lunch.
Oh yeah,
Sorry.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah. No, yeah, so we should always look for ways to kind of like, cross culture and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yes. Dinner at 6:30 or 7 is just a second dinner. Oh gosh. But no, yeah. And so at the end of each of these different chapters, David Platt gives us some points for prayer, some points for participation, and some points for proclamation. So pray, participate, proclaim. Under prayer, he invites us to, and I'll copy this into. No, I will maybe copy this into. Will it let me copy this into chat? He invites us to protect and provide for refugees in an imminent physical danger. Give churches a burden to minister to the physical and spiritual needs of refugees, both in our own communities and among the nations, and to direct the paths and prepare the hearts of refugees such that they may hear and embrace the gospel of Jesus Christ. Right. So that was the stuff underneath prayer. Now, secondly, under participate, he invites us to meet with church leaders and other members to strategize about ministering to refugees in your community and among the nations. Which, again, there might not be actual opportunity for your church to do that, so it might just look like donation.
Yeah.
Stay informed about the world's refugee crisis and make it a priority as you pray for unreached peoples in this world. I mean, especially with the war in Iran going on, right? Just pray for all those that are being displaced there. And then giving the financial support. Yep. And then under proclaim, he gives 3 scriptures to reflect on as well. Luke 10:27, Acts 17:26 through 27, and Proverbs 31, 8 through 9. There you go. Alrighty. Anything else that you would like to add in conclusion here, Katie?
I think I had something and I lost it, so no.
Alrighty. Well, in that case, would you like to pray us out real quick?
Yes. Hey, Lord, thank you for this day that you gave us another one of, and thank you that we could gather and we could talk about refugees, immigration, illegal immigration a little bit. Lord, I just ask that as we, for those here in the chat and for those here in the future listening to this, that you would continue to work on our hearts on this issue, and that we would see people the way you see people as your children, and that they are valuable, that they are loved, and that you crafted them in your image, Lord. And thank you for Will, who hosts these conversations. Lord, bless him tenfold for doing this and being willing to like have these conversations and provide the materials and do all the legwork. And bless everyone in chat too who is here, Lord. And let this conversation not return void. Let us remember it. Let us have your word written upon our hearts, including in this conversation and on this topic. Lord, let us be soft-hearted and be quick to listen and slow to speak. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Yes.
Yeah, so